Prakash Kumar Jha from IIT Varanasi. He'll speak about non-vanishing of Fourier Jacobi coefficients of Hermitian curve form. Please go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for giving the opportunity to speak here. So as you can see, title of my talk is the non-vanishing of Fourier Jacobi coefficients of Hermitian curve form. So I'll tell what are Hermitian curve form and what are their Fourier Jacobi coefficient. Then I shall talk about its non-vanishing. So basically, I'm going to talk about the non-vanishing in a arithmetic progression. If you take any non-trivial arithmetic progression, then we'll see how when these Fourier Jacobi coefficients are non-zero. So let's see some motivation. So we know the very famous Euclid's theorem that there are infinitely many prime numbers, and the proof of this is by fundamental theorem of arithmetic, which says that any number is either a prime or product of primes. So if you see set of all odd numbers, so then we see that this contain all the odd primes. But so this is an arithmetic progression with common difference 1. So we can ask this following question. So if you consider any general arithmetic progression, a set of type an plus b where n varies over natural number, then how many prime does this set contain? And the answer to this question is none. If the GCD of a and b is d, and which is bigger than 1, then this set doesn't contain even a single prime, because d will be dividing a and b, so it will divide all the terms of the sequence. So it cannot contain any prime. So the necessary condition for this type of set to contain at least one prime is that GCD of a and b has to be 1. Dirichlet in fact proved that this is also a sufficient condition. In fact, he also proved that this set contains infinitely many primes. So if the GCD of a and b is 1, then this particular arithmetic progression, this contains infinitely many primes. And if the proof of this one is different from the proof of there are infinitely many prime numbers in this set. So though one can modify the proof of this Euclid proofs for these particular sets 4n plus 1, 4n minus 1, but for general a and b, this proof will not work. So for that, Dirichlet considered something called L function and study the properties of L function, and then deduce that this set has infinitely many primes. So I'm just going to tell about what are L function. So L function is nothing. So you start with a complex sequence. So suppose you have a sequence of numbers, ans, and you consider this particular series. Well, this series should make sense. So suppose it is absolutely convergent in some right half plane. So this is called L function associated to this particular complex sequence an. The famous example I will say this Riemann zeta function where all ans are 1. So it is well known that it has a holomorphic continuation, and it has a simple pole at s equals to 1 where sd is 1, and also it satisfies certain kind of functional equation. So this is the generally whenever we have a L function, we try to see what kind of holomorphic function, whether it is holomorphic, or if it is not holomorphic, can we extend, can we continue to whole complex plane as a holomorphic function, what are the poles, what are the functional equation it satisfies. So this is something we study as for a L function. So the second example I'm giving is, suppose you start with a Dirichlet character modulo n, and you consider this particular series L chi of s by chi n over n to the power s. This is also absolutely convergent for a real part of s bigger than 1. So the Dirichlet used this particular L function. He studied the analytic properties of this L function, and from there he deduced that that there are infinitely many primes in any arithmetic progression. So there are many L function, and these are kind of central objects in number theory which people study. So one thing is the L function comes from modulo form. So whenever you have a modulo forms, so I'm going to define what are modulo form. In fact, I'm going to define particular kind of modulo form which is called Hermitian modulo form, and we'll see how L function from for a modulo form look like. So in general, we have a modulo form. Then modulo form has a Fourier coefficient. So this Fourier coefficient has are complex numbers. So we have a sequence an which we want to define a L function. Then one can define L function associated to a modulo form. So now I'm just going to set up some notation. So for two matrices A and B, these are a square matrix. I'm defining A box B to be B bar transpose AB, Then I'm defining two matrix J. So the J is a 4 by 4 matrix where 0 is null matrix of order 2 square and I is identity matrix of order 2. So basically J is 4 by 4 matrix, and I'm defining this particular group gamma 2 where gamma 2 is a 4 by 4 matrices over Gaussian integer, and it satisfies this condition that J box M is invariant under this box. So J of box M is J. So this box, so I'm just, so if you take any M and write it as a block matrix where A, B, C, D are 2 by 2 matrices over Gaussian integer, then if you evaluate this relation, then it turns out that this A, B, C, D block matrix satisfy this kind of conditions. So basically it is nothing, a kind of generalization of SL2G. If you see that in case of SL2G, these are okay because these are one scalars, and this is AD minus BC is 1 in the case of SL2G. So this is kind of a generalization of SL2G. So my gamma 2 is a group ABCD. I'm writing in terms ABCD satisfying this kind of transformation property. Now I'm considering this particular Hermitian half plane, which is the set of all 2 by 2 complex matrices with this particular condition where Z minus Z bar 2 over 2i is bigger than 0 means this is positive definite matrix. Bigger than 0 is a notation for this particular matrix is positive definite. So this group actually gamma 2, this is called Hermitian modular group. This group acts on Hermitian half plane with this transformation. So if you take any matrix M and take any element in Hermitian half plane, then this particular transformation gives a group action. In fact, this is also kind of generalization of the fractional linear transform, which we have seen that SL2G acts on complex upper half plane via fractional linear transformation. So now I am ready to define my Hermitian modular form. So Hermitian modular form of weight K and degree 2. Degree 2 is because somehow this is called gamma 2 is called the Hermitian modular group of degree 2. So Hermitian modular form of weight K and degree 2 is a complex valued holomorphic function and is satisfied this particular transformation property with respect to that group action. So weight K is appearing here. So this is called automorphic factor. And also this particular function should have this Fourier expansion, and the Fourier expansion should look like this, where these matrices is running over all 2 by 2 Hermitian matrices such that the diagonal entries are Gaussian integer and twice of diagonal entries are Gaussian integer. So this is called Hermitian modular form. So, but we are interested in something called Hermitian cusp form. So cusp form is Hermitian modular form is called cusp form. So only the difference is all the Fourier coefficients. If T is not positive definite, then this is 0. So for Hermitian cusp form, the Fourier coefficients survive only if the matrix is positive definite, not semi-definite. So that's the difference between modular form and cusp form. So this is just a notation for SK gamma 2. This denotes the space of Hermitian cusp form of weight K and degree 2. So now I'm going to rewrite this Fourier expansion. So what I'm going to write, so if you take any element in a Hermitian half plane, it will look like this. And similarly, if you take any 2 by 2 Hermitian matrix with those conditions which appearing in Fourier expansion, this has formed this. So now I'm going to write my Fourier expansion like this. So in this, I have not done anything. Here just I have written T. In place of T, I have written this particular matrix, and I have just written this particular matrix in terms of T, Z. So if you now what we'll do, we collect all the terms, this AF, this particular matrix e to the power 2 pi I n tau r z1 plus r bar z2 together, and we'll leave this term, and I'm just writing this as a formal series. So where this phi m is this particular term. So now the transformation property which my Hermitian modular form satisfy will inherit some transformation property to this particular phi m. And with that transformation property, this phi m, these are some objects which are called Jacobi form. of weight k and index f. So weight k is coming from the modulo form and index m is coming from which index I am looking at. So, and the space of all, here also we can, so this Jacobi form also has some kind of Fourier expansion, and here also one with Fourier expansion, which is non-zero forms of finite dimensional Hilbert space with certain Peterson scalar product. And that Peterson scalar product is defined by this particular integral. So you start with a two Jacobi form. So phi and psi are two Jacobi form of weight k, index m. Then if you consider this particular integral where z1 and z2 is x1 plus iy1, x2 plus iy2, and tau is u plus iv, then this particular integral is defines a certain kind of inner product. It is called Peterson scalar product. So what we have seen so far is, so whenever we have a Hermitian cusp form, it has a Fourier Jacobi expansion, and these Fourier Jacobi coefficients, these are called Fourier Jacobi coefficients. So phi m, these are called Fourier Jacobi coefficient, and these are something, these are complex valued holomorphic function, and they are Jacobi form. So just recall the first slide I have started with. So I am interested in when these functions are non-zero in arithmetic progress. So now I'm not asking the question of how many primes are in the arithmetic progression, but in this case, because these are not numbers, these are functions. So I'm asking the question that how many functions are non-zero in a arithmetic progressions. And for this also we have to consider some kind of L function. And the L function I'm going to consider is the next. So you start with Dirichlet character modulo n, and we start with two Hermitian cusp form of weight k and degree 2 with the Fourier Jacobi expansion, Fourier Jacobi coefficient phi m and psi m. Then I'm considering this particular Dirichlet series. So this is some kind of, so main part is this part. So if you see, so to define a L function, we need some complex number time m to the power s. So this is a complex number because phi m and psi m is Peterson scalar product. So this is a complex number, and these are some factor which is we have added for some technical reason and some calculations. So this is a Dedekind zeta function associated to this Gaussian integer, and this is usual Riemann zeta function. Now, if we complete this L function, then so first of all, this L function was studied by Raghavan and Sengupta for trivial character. If chi is a trivial character, then they have studied the analytic properties of this particular Dirichlet series. So in a joint work with Soumya Das, we studied the analytic properties of this particular L function. So we see that if chi is a principal character, then this particular L function has a holomorphic continuation, and the only possible simple pole at k, k minus 1, k minus 2, k minus 3, where k is a weight coming from f and g. And this also satisfies this particular functional equation. And to study this particular functional equation, we have to study some kind of Einstein series, real analytic Hermitian Einstein series I'm going to just define, and also some kind of Epstein zeta function. So, and if we, okay, so, and if we use this theorem with some particular theorem of Landau about non-trivial, non-negative Dirichlet series with non-negative coefficient, then we get this particular theorem which we have mentioned in the first slide regarding primes. So this is similar theorem, but here instead of prime it is non-zero. So if you start with any non-zero Hermitian cusp form, then you have infinitely many m such that this particular phi m is 0 in this class. And in fact, not only that, we can also say about this size of Peterson norm also. Not only non-zero, we can also tell about size, how much size of this Peterson norm, greater than as well as less than also. So this is the application of that theorem, which says about the analytic properties of Dirichlet series. So I'll just give quickly about how we prove. So for proof, we have to consider something called Epstein zeta function. So we consider these two type of matrices, Pz and Q. So these Pz and Q are Hermitian and positive definite, and Q is a Hermitian matrix. So we have to consider this particular function. This is called generalized Epstein zeta function, and this is defined by a certain. This is a particular series and this is series is absolutely convergent for real part of s bigger than 3. And we proved that this particular string zeta function has a analytic continuation, but there are some possible simple pole at 0, 1, 2, 3, and this satisfies this particular functional equation. Now, also, I'm just skipping this because this proof, this is just a sketch of proof. So one has to consider some kind of theta function and apply some summation formula, and then one has to integrate the theta function with real analytic Einstein series. Then one can conclude that if string zeta function is holomorphic continuation to whole complex plane with those possible simple poles. Now, next thing is Einstein series. So one has to consider this kind of Einstein series. So this is defined by this is some kind of group. I'm just going to tell what are the group. So chi is a character we started with. This is imaginary part of MZ. So MZ is matrix. So this is imaginary. So imaginary part of this is also matrix, and its determinant. And this is MZ1 is the first diagonal element of the matrix. So, and this group is actually some kind of group, or means congruence subgroup, means the entries of that matrices satisfy some congruence condition. So if you complete this Einstein series has also nice analytic properties, that it can be analytically continued to whole complex plane if chi is a non-principal character, and if it is principal, then it has some poles at 0, 1, 2, 3, and it satisfies this particular transformation property. So finally, so now to prove that Einstein series is holomorphic, what we have to do? We have to express the Einstein series as a finite linear combination of f string zeta function. Now we know the f string zeta function has a holomorphic property, and it has a poles, and it has a functional equation. From that we can conclude the analytic properties of Einstein series. Once we have the analytic properties of Einstein series, we can integrate the Einstein series with some nice function to get the Dirichlet series, and we will prove that that particular integral defines a holomorphic function, and from that we get the holomorphic continuation of Dirichlet series and also the functional equation. Now for the non-vanishing part, what we have to do, we have to apply Landau's theorem for non-negative series of, so suppose we have to consider this particular Dirichlet series. So this is f and f. So this the coefficient of this Dirichlet series will be the Peterson norm of phi m, which will always be non-negative. So then we can apply Landau's theorem, and then we'll get the non-vanishing result which we are interested in, that there are infinitely many primes in the, so not prime, there are infinitely many non-zero Fourier Jacobi coefficient in an arithmetic progression, like Dirichlet's theorem, that there are infinitely many primes in an arithmetic progression. So yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Abash. I don't see any questions in the chat, but if anyone has questions, please ask now.
Can I ask a question now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Abbas, how is this different from working with just a Siegel modular form? I mean, the way you constructed everything, it was almost like we are working with a Siegel modular form.
Yeah. So Siegel case is already there. So I forgot to mention, this is, everything is there. For Siegel case it is already there. So Sengupta and Kohanen, they have done for Siegel case. We have done for Hermitian case. Yeah. So Siegel,
Okay, thank you.
everything is there. Yes.
Okay.
Hello.
Thank you.
This is Sujit Abbas here.
Yes.
You have done it here for QI, means
Yes,
imaginary
yes.
quadratic extension of degree 2, means Hermitian modular form you are taking over QI. And
Yes.
what about other extension,
Yes.
other quadratic extension?
So if you see the paper, we have said something about other quadratic field instead of q root -1. But the only thing different is one has to consider that if string zeta function over any number field, and one has to prove that if string zeta, that holomorphic continuation of f string zeta function, if there is some condition. If you look at this condition, I just wanted to, one has to consider, yes, this f string zeta function for any number field, but this condition has to incorporate it.
Okay.
So something has to be done with this. So we could not do this. That is the only problem. Otherwise, everything will go.
Yeah, maybe when the that thing is 1, means if you consider any quadratic extension, and Eisenstein series will not be well represented in every case, I think. The case of Hermitian modular form.
No, Einstein series, I don't think Einstein series, there will be problem with Einstein series,
Mm-hmm.
because this I don't think there will be any problem here. But in the proof of this one, actually, we use something called primitive element. We have to look at the primitive
Acha.
element.
Acha.
In that we faced some difficulty. That's why we restricted ourselves to this one.
Okay.
Otherwise, so we have to consider Epstein zeta function of some general lattice,
Mm-hmm.
and but with this condition. So the holomorphic continuation of Epstein zeta function for any number field is there, but without this condition. If you remove this condition, then but this condition, in this case, this condition coming naturally. That's why we have some.
Okay.
Okay, so let's thank Bash again for a very nice talk.
Thank you.